installation. You have this music also.
In the YouTube.
What? Panchatata installation.
The Panchatata installation to
in Mayapur.
In Mayapur. There's this famous song.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
I went to Godrum this year.
Oh, this year.
Took a rickshaw.
Where is it?
You have to cross the river.
The Jalangi.
And then you take a rickshaw. I think it's Godrum there. It's very beautiful. It's it's a little bit in the countryside, away from traffic.
It's in Bengal, West Bengal, is it?
Yeah, West Bengal, the same region.
Now it be the 9 islands. So Godrum is one of them.
Cool. Nice.
I'm starting to discover, because I wasn't sick. First time I wasn't sick in India this year, so I'm starting to move around. Out of bed. So 10, 5, 4. 3 and 4.
3 and 4.
4 purport. For these purports in the 4.
Which one is this?
This is 4.
Okay.
Usually one with the purport we write on the
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 5, text number 3 and 4. Dhenunam niyute pradad viprebhyaha samalankrite tiladrin saptaratnauga shatakom ham haravritan. Nanda Maharaj gave 2 million cows completely decorated with cloth and jewels in charity to the Brahmanas. He also gave them 7 hills of grain covered with jewels and with cloth decorated with golden embroidery. 2 million cows. Do we have any Brahmanas here who can take care of cows?
Yeah, for sure.
One maybe.
Brahmanas, they have many cows.
No Brahmanas in this Shudra world this time, so I don't know what to do.
And they got 7 hills of grain covered with jewels. So sometimes the Indians, they give a little bag of rice or some pulses, and then they put a few coins inside. So it's the similar thing, but much bigger here. So we read the text from today. Oh, I didn't finish. He also gave them 7 hills of grain, covered with jewels and with cloth decorated with golden embroidery. So text number 4. Kalena snana shochabhyang.
Kalena snana shochabhyang.
Kalena snana shochabhyang.
Kalena snana shochabhyang.
Sanskara istapasse jaya.
Sanskara istapasse jaya.
Sanskara istapasse jaya.
Sanskara istapasse jaya.
Shujyanti danai santushya.
Shujyanti danai santushya.
Shujyanti danai santushya.
Shujyanti danai santushya.
Dravyanyatmatma vidyaha vidyaya. Dravyanyatmatma vidyaya. Kalena snana shochabhyang. Samskarais tapase jaya. Shudyanti danai santushta. Dravyanyatmatma vidyaya. Dravyanyatmatma vidyaya. Next. Kalena snana shochabhyam. Samskara istapasya jaya. Shudyanti dane santushtya. Davyanyatmatma vidyaya. Kalena snana shochabhyam. Samskara istapasya jaya. Shudyanti dana santustya. Davyanyatmatma vidyaya. Kalena snana shochabhyam. Samskara istapasya jaya. Shudyanti dana santushya. Davyanyatmatma vidyaya. Kalena snana shochabhyam. Samskara istapasya jaya. Shudyanti dana santushya. Davyanyatmatma vidyaya. Ladies. Kalena snana shochabhyam. Samskara istapasya jaya. Shudyanti dana santustya. Davyanyatmatma vidyaya. Kalena. By due course of time. The land and other material things become purified. Snana shochabhyam. By bathing. The body becomes purified. And by cleansing, unclean things become purified. Samskaraihi. By purificatory processes. Birth becomes purified. What is that called? Garbhodan samskar. Tapasa. By austerity. The senses become purified. Ijaya. By worship. The brahmanas become purified. Shudyanti. Become purified. Danaihi. By charity. Wealth becomes purified. Santushtya. By satisfaction. The mind becomes purified. Dravyani. All material possessions. Such as cows, land and gold. This is the most important thing. Atma, the soul, becomes purified. Atma Vidyaya,
Atma Vidyaya,
by self-realization.
by self-realization.
O king, by the passing of time, land and other material possessions are purified. By bathing, the body is purified, and by being cleansed, unclean things are purified. By purificatory ceremonies, birth is purified. By austerity, the senses are purified. And by worship and charity offered to the Brahmanas, material possessions are purified. By satisfaction, the mind is purified. And by self-realization or Krishna consciousness, the soul is purified. Purport: there are Shastric injunctions concerning how one can purify everything according to Vedic civilization. Unless purified, anything we use will infect us with contamination. In India, 5,000 years ago, even in the villages such as that of Nana Maharaj, people knew how to purify things, and thus they enjoyed even material life without contamination. So I also wanted to read something from the first canto. Do you have the first canto here in English? I've been thinking about the first canto is really a nice book. It's like a complete book in itself. That Prabhupada gave us. He put everything there actually, and he put some very interesting information about how to run a country, how to in a Krishna conscious state. So Prabhupada had a very, very big vision that we cannot even imagine. He had a vision that devotees one day will run armies and countries. Because I know this, it's not, I've been reading, of course, in the first canto, but Ravindra Swarup, he once asked Prabhupada, because he read Ravindra Swarup, he read the first canto, and he had a doubt in Krishna consciousness, especially the chapter where Maharaj Parikshit deals with the age of the personality of Kali. He has his sword, and he's ready to kill him because he is beating the cow. So he had a doubt about Krishna consciousness because we have seen fundamentalist people from fundamentalistic religion, where you mix government with religion, and in many cases bad things happen.
To good people.
Not to good people. So he had a doubt. So he asked Prabhupada about this, and he said, you're envisioning a time where devotees will run countries and armies. He asked Prabhupada directly, not in a letter. He came in and talked with Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, yes. And then Ravindra, he had a question. He asked Prabhupada, he said, so Prabhupada, how do we avoid, you have all this power, all these facilities, how do we avoid becoming demons? And he was very happy about the answer, which was very clear, very simple. Prabhupada said, chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles. That's it, 16, 4. And Ravindra, maybe he had expected some more esoteric answer, or maybe something different, but he was quite happy about this answer. So that's the way we avoid to become demons, even if we have power. And somebody has to exercise the power in the world. There's power. Somebody has to exercise it, so why not devotees? Of course, we're not there yet. But like a country like India, it could become a Krishna conscious state. I mean, Modi, he's already very, very favorable. And he is mixing religion now with government. You can argue if it's good or bad the way he's doing it, but he's doing it, and he's very Hindu.
He's actually starting to also turn some states into no animal killing, no animal slaughter states.
Yeah, that's already there. That's already there.
But obviously some other states within India are rebelling against that, but he's got at least, I think, 20 states who've agreed to do it.
You mean no animals or just cows?
No animals.
Because some states, they have the law that says you cannot slaughter the cows already.
Mm-hmm.
So this is he goes even further.
Yeah.
Mm. And he's very favorable to ISKCON in so many different ways. Now this year they opened the temple of Ramlal, you have probably heard, which was very, very big. Also because formerly there was a mosque there, so it's also very controversial. And they actually tore down that mosque. So some people are a little bit nervous, Muslims, about his government. So we'll see what happens. But the point is that Prabhupada had a vision how to run a country, actually. And we may not be there yet, but we can practice on a small scale, I guess. How to run a temple. Then you may develop into a little bigger community. Of course, government means that you have police, you have military. So we don't have this here in Mayapur. You may get something which resembles a little bit in temples, even in the West. We have security.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but of course, they have to be authorized by government also. Like a country where you can have your own army is the United States of America. There you could actually have your own private army as long as it's authorized from the government. That's a completely different situation.
Doesn't overthrow the government, like, it goes so big that suddenly there's a coup.
So one definition that Ravindra Swarup gives of government, one definition is they have monopoly on, I cannot remember exactly how it's said, but they have monopoly on violence. They can use violence. They can use force. Just like we read about Maharaj Parikshit. Of course, only when it's necessary, but at this time in history, in Dwapara Yuga, it wasn't really necessary so much. But Maharaj Parikshit, he saw the personification of Kali who was feeding a cow. And so you cannot apply the same thing exactly now, because then you would have to kill everyone. Because he was ready to kill this person because he was hurting a cow's leg. So what to speak of today? They're killing the cows on a factory level. So in this age, of course, like we have just been singing about Lord Nityananda, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, they have not come here to kill, just like Krishna came to start a battle, Kurukshetra, but they have come to kill the demonic mentality inside of us. But at the same time, it's interesting to read about Prabhupada's vision. I just read a little bit from a purport, and we can discuss it. About, he gives practical suggestions how to run a country. What things you ought to do, which rules, which laws you can introduce. And he doesn't say that you have to chant 16 rounds. that's very difficult to apply on the whole population. But he's saying other things. So this is chapter, first canto, chapter 17. Text number 38. So, I just read from the purport. Now, at this time, Kali is being sent away. He's being sent to the places where the four regulative principles are basically being broken. That's where he belongs. So, some people who are outside Varnashram, they can be sent there. And now it's practically everywhere, we can say. But at this time, and of course, it's a problem also for him, we will see later, because in Maharaj Parikshit's kingdom, which is the whole planet, they had trouble finding such a place. But then again, it's said that where gold is being hoarded, where gold is being stored up, that's where all the principles are being broken. So now we can see in our age that all the gold is being hoarded inside a very safe place, all the gold of the world. Formerly the gold would be circulating. In India it's still circulating. It's hanging on all the women. India, I think, is the country in the world where the women has most weight of gold hanging on them in the whole world. I have heard that. Is that true or not? This is from the Vedic culture.
And in Dubai, of course.
Yeah.
Dubai.
So, I just read some of these suggestions that Prabhupada give to for government, Krishna conscious government, and then we can have a little bit of discussion. So, he says, 1. 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, if not more. This is austerity. Even from the economic point of view, such 2 fasting days in a month in the state will save tons of food. And the system will also act very favorably on the general health of the citizens. It's good for health. And of course, 2 days a month, we know what Prabhupada is thinking about. Ekadasi. So fasting completely or following Ekadasi. He didn't tell us that we have to fast completely because he knew that we're not always able. So number 2, there must be compulsory marriage of young boys and girls attaining 24 years of age and 16 years of age respectively. So that's 24, the boy can be older and the girl can be younger. There is no harm in co-education in the schools and colleges. That means boys and girls together. Provided the boys and girls are duly married, and in case there is any intimate connection between a male and female student, they should be married properly, without illicit relation. And then he says something which is like a bombshell in Kali Yuga. He says, the Divorce Act is encouraging prostitution. And this should be abolished. This is Prabhupada speaking. It's not me. I'm just reading. Sometimes, nowadays, there's a new expression, maybe not so new, but it's an expression. It's called serial monogamy. Have you heard about that? Serial monogamy. Monogamy means you have many wives. So generally, this is actually forbidden.
Polygon. It's more.
Sorry, polygamy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
confused.
yeah, sorry. So that it's actually illegal in most countries to have more than one wife officially. But people have many wives. But they take one wife or husband and then they take another one afterwards, and then they reject that one, they take another one. So they still have many wives.
It's fine.
But it's legal. The Prabhupada said this should not be legal. It should be abolished. So, and then number 3, the citizens of the state must give a charity up, he says, up to 50% of their income for the purpose of creating a spiritual atmosphere in the state or in human society, both individually and collectively. So he says up to 50%. It doesn't mean that you have to give 50% no matter what. It's depending on the situation. They should preach the principles of Bhagavatam by A. They, he means the government. The government should arrange for this. They should preach the principles of Bhagavatam by A. Karma Yoga, or doing everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. B. Regular hearing of the Srimad Bhagavatam from authorized persons or realized souls. C. Chanting of the glories of the Lord congregationally at home or at places of worship. D. Rendering all kinds of service to Bhagavatas engaged in preaching Srimad Bhagavatam. And E. Residing in a place where the atmosphere is saturated with God consciousness. If the state is regulated by the above process, naturally there will be God consciousness everywhere. And I can just read the last part also. Gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading, and when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is a complete disappearance of truthfulness. Allowing young boys and girls to remain unmarried more than the above mentioned ages and licensing animal slaughterhouses of all description should be at once prohibited. The flesh eaters may be allowed to take flesh as mentioned in the scriptures and not otherwise. Intoxication of all description, even smoking cigarettes, for us it's not a big deal, but for people in general, even smoking cigarettes, chewing tobacco, or the drinking of tea must be prohibited in the government. So that does, of course, that does not mean you close the slaughterhouses, you close the bars and pubs, you close the brothels, all these things. So it becomes illegal. So that does not mean that people will stop doing these things, of course. They will do it illegally. But it will be a lot less if the government is, just like in Sweden and Norway, the government have monopoly on alcohol, okay? This is very good, actually. So if you want to buy alcohol, you have to go to a special shop which is run by the government and is very expensive. So everyone comes to Denmark. They take the boat. The Norwegians, the only time we see Norwegians and Swedish people in Denmark is when they're drunk. So we say, when we speak about Swedish people in Denmark, we say drunk Swedes. Because that's why they come. Because the government has put restrictions, which that will disappear after some time, but they still have it. So maybe you have some comments about all this very interesting topic.
Yeah, in Fiji, Iceland, when Sri
Prabhupada came with his disciple first time,
In Fiji.
Fiji.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fiji
There
Island.
was one
Island.
gentleman who was very enthusiastic, and he was Indian, and he was very rich. He owned a lot of supermarket and things like that in the field of eating food.
Yeah.
And he had to build a temple for the devotees. And at a point, the devotees realized that he was selling meat. So they asked Prabhupada what to do. Should he close his business? He said no. He said no, because the relative of this gentleman were not so induced in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada said it will take some time, but it will be done automatically. And effectively, in due course of time, these people became acquainted with Krishna consciousness. And naturally, they shift their business in of meat eating, in butchery, all this, in another field. So it shows how Prabhupada is operating in a contaminated area. He doesn't forbid, he introduced Sri Krishna consciousness, and the people realize, yes, these things have to be given up. And after some time, they give up.
Yeah.
And, maybe someone else will take the business, but not in the realm of the devotees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? He says that what a great personality does, common men follow. What is this verse?
You remember the verse?
Yat yat acharati sreshtas, etc. That exactly what you say, that say if the government introduces Krishna consciousness, people are like sheep. Most people are like sheep. Let's just admit it. Most people, they are not very intelligent. Most people, they need to follow. That's most of us, we are in that category. Most people cannot think for themselves very much. If you hear something in the news, you believe it. Right? Mostly, we believe what we hear from government or media. And of course, government and media, they have a close cooperation. And so, if you hear, let's say, for example, you hear something about the war in Ukraine from Western media, you get one point of view. You hear something about the war from the Russian media, you get another point of view. Most people, they cannot start rotating for themselves. So the truth may be different from what we hear, because they are not honest.
It will be. Not just maybe, it will be different,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, of course, now the first Western journalist has interviewed Putin since the beginning of the war. You may have heard about this. Tucker Carlson, formerly employed at Fox News. And it's very interesting. And he went to Russia, he went to Moscow, he looked around. And basically his point is that you have to make up your own opinion. We are being forced, we can say we are being forced an opinion. So at least those people who can think for themselves, they can make their own opinion, but most people can't. So the government has to be truthful and actually preach the absolute truth. Then if you have that as a dogma, because when we hear, you know the word dogma, it means, it's a negative sounding word, right? Dogma is like, you follow some principles or rules, just for the principles and rules. You don't know why. We do it like this because we do it like this.
Niyamagra and
Yeah, something like Niyamagraha. So, but if the absolute truth happens to be the dogma, it's good. People may not understand 100% why they follow Krishna consciousness, but if the government is pushing it and there are brahmanas, intelligent people, behind the administrative head, then even if people, they just follow because that's what they're told to do, it's good for them. But it's not good for us to follow government if it's demonic. So, any other comments about this?
Yeah, nice class, thank you. And alerting us especially on the aspects of what Prabhupada says it's a pure state. We are in Kali Yuga.
Yeah.
And Kali Yuga, as we know, Maharaj Parishit found Kali demolishing the four principles of religion. And so Kali Yuga is here to progress. So how do we reconcile the two facts what Prabhupada is suggesting versus the fact that obviously Kali Yuga needs to progress in its path?
Yeah, you cannot stop Kali Yuga.
Yeah. That is its ordained path.
You cannot stop it, but we know that there will be a period of 10,000 years, which is the golden age of Lord Chaitanya. And then we can say, I don't know how it will look.
Afterwards,
I don't know exactly how it will look, but what I know is that we haven't seen much of that yet. We are just in the beginning stages. And as far as I understand, from reading Prabhupada's books, is you cannot really have the age of Lord Chaitanya if you don't have government Krishna consciousness, at least in one or more countries. Because Prabhupada said it also, Krishna consciousness cannot be established in a large scale without support from the government.
Yeah.
He said that. So that does not mean that the whole planet will become devotees. I don't think we should have any illusions. But those who get on the boat of Lord Chaitanya, the Kali Yuga will have no effect on them. If you follow, I think there's no doubt about that. If you follow the path laid out by Srila Prabhupada and his instructions in his books, then Kali Yuga has no influence. But it will go on outside.
Just to support that statement, we know in India, I know from reading the reports in India within ISKCON, so I've been following the past 3 years, the book distribution, the December marathon that we have? In there are reports from, say, Chowpatty, Delhi, and then there's a whole India report. And in that India report, there are each of the big temples like Delhi, Mumbai, Vrindavan, Mayapur, etc. They support something called Namahatas or satellite sites. And these satellite sites between just these three has been growing exponentially. In the sense that in the first year of these 3 years, there were like Mayapur had 20 or 15, Mumbai had like 5 or 10, and Delhi had like something similar, 10 and 15. And I saw the report this year, just December marathon just gone. Mumbai has got 25 satellite sites, Delhi has got 35, Mayapur's got something like 50 satellite sites. So these are all sites that are growing in Krishna consciousness, and only yesterday another temple near Mumbai opened up with installation of deities, ISKCON temple. So you can see the heart of the matter, the mindset, the foundations growing from India outwards.
Yeah, I mean, Indians, I read ISKCON law when I was on vacation.
Mm.
I read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
ISKCON law, and many devotees, they don't know this, including leaders.
Mm.
Because if you knew it, at least, I'm not saying everywhere, but some places things would be run differently.
Sure.
And one thing it says, ISKCON law, is it emphasizes the Indian congregation several times, at least 3 or 4 times, how important the Indians are for us. I mean, here we are in the middle of nowhere, and you have Indian people coming, they come all the way from Paris, they take darshan, they sit for 5 minutes, and they go back, sometimes.
Anyway, these guys are from Bhaktivedanta Manor. They're here to.
Yeah,
They're the 5 guys to do the yoga.
but it just shows
By the
how
line.
pious people from India they are by nature. They would go all the way 300 kilometers just to take darshan, and then they get back in the car. I've seen it, and they go back. They're not here to enjoy. So, yeah, India is completely exploding in Krishna consciousness, and it's like Indian people, you just scratch the surface and Krishna consciousness is there, just below the surface of the skin, Even ordinary Hindus, they are in many ways more advanced than we are, at least Western people. They have, it's very, very healthy to be with Indian persons, even Indian so-called karmis, because they have a culture, they have, at least Prabhupada said that the Vedic culture in India, he said, is dead. But the Vedic culture is so valuable, it's like an elephant. Even a dead elephant is very valuable. You can take the tusks, the ivory.
The skin, everything.
So the Vedic culture, the remnants of the Vedic culture is still there in India. And I think India will, that's the potential first place where a government can become Krishna conscious. And India is a huge population.
It's a huge beast.
It's a huge population.
Also from the skeleton, you can guess the animal was very powerful and big and like this. And they will maintain hundreds and thousands of them. Elephants.
Yeah. And Prabhupada also
So it
said,
means they have a lot of income. It means a lot of rain, grass to feed them. Because elephants you cannot maintain without rain. If you have a lot. Means the economy was completely.
yeah. And we know, of course, the famous quote from, what is that from? It's from Chaitanya Charitamrita, I guess. Yeah. That every person who is born in Bharat Bhumi in India should preach Krishna consciousness all over the world.
Yeah. Prabhupada said it many times.
And Prabhupada repeated that, especially when he was preaching to his countrymen, that how important it is that I think also that the more Indian preachers come to the West, the better. And why? Because it's more authentic. We Westerners, when we see an Indian guru, right, we take him more seriously than when we see a white Hare Krishna or Western Hare Krishna. Because this is the way people are thinking. They're thinking, oh, this is a new religion. It's like New Age almost. We Westerners, we take up this movement, but they have more faith in Indian gurus. Also because they are more in the mode of goodness, generally speaking. Even the Mayavadi gurus, they are so attractive to us Westerners because they're happy, They're smiling, they give some good advice, So that, I think, it's already happening, but if that would happen in a bigger scale, that Indian born devotees will take up the torch and come to the West. That just like Bhakti Charaswami,
Yeah.
he did that.
Yeah.
There's several others devotees who did that and who do that. Some of them, they have a big culture shock. What is his name? Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj.
He had illness.
Hmm?
Bhakti Rasamrita
When is this?
Maharaj, right?
Uh-huh.
He actually, he was ready to come, especially in the UK.
He's been here already.
But he had this illness which
Yeah.
compelled him to stay in Belgaum.
Yeah, but I know that when he came here and was preaching, he was shocked by what's going on in the West. He was sitting with Gaura Hari in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and these punks, these kind of punk people with this mohawk and spikes and
Like punk.
piercing and tattoos.
Like punk.
He saw them coming, and he was just completely blown away. He said to Gaura Hari, "Did you see that? What is this?"
What kind of animal is
They
this?
look like, he said they look like Yamaduta.
In real life, Yamaduta. Take a wish to anyway.
I got his attention. It was too much for him, I mean, still compared to India, it's too much, Things are going on in India now also, but it's much, much more innocent.
It's interesting, the paradox, because in India, they actually value Western gurus way more.
Yeah.
It's like, no, we have so many saints in India. It's like grass is always greener on the other side.
Yeah.
This is how Prabhupada was so successful in introducing and
He
infiltrating.
would bring
this
his dancing white elephants.
This is it.
And we are still the dancing white elephants. When I go to India, sometimes it's overwhelming,
Yeah.
Everybody stops you. And everyone's eyes, especially I go to my wife's village, I cannot,
Walk 50 meters.
as long as I open the door, everybody is, can we take
Selfie?
photo with you? Where are you from?
Yeah.
So, and you have to be nice.
Yeah.
But they treat you like a demigod. So, yeah. And it helps them to take up their own culture also. We can help them to remember what they forgot, and they can help us also. And I think that one quote from Prabhupada is very, very striking. And I think maybe we will end with that. He said that the West is like a lame man. He cannot walk. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Opposite. The West is blind.
Blind.
The East is lame. Materially, maybe. But now we can see that's also changing. But his point is that one should take the other on his back. The West is blind, generally speaking, spiritually.
They are giants.
Huh?
A blind giant.
Blind giant. Like you. But you're not blind.
West.
So, the cooperation between the East and West is, that's what ISKCON is also, is so important. Sometimes we, Westerners, we are a little racist. We have seen that also. And maybe vice versa.
Yeah, it's all everywhere.
But that racism in India is more subtle. It's more about caste and all these things. If you want to marry an Indian girl, it can be complicated.
A little tricky, yeah.
So we have to get over all this from both sides, and we have to cooperate. But I must say that most Indian people that I meet, I just see very few exceptions of bad experiences that I have in India. I would say almost zero. So, anyway.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Madhan Gopal Prabhu ki
Jai.